Pope Francis was laid to rest after a grand funeral mass, which was attended by hundreds of thousands of mourners and world leaders, including President William Ruto. Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, who led the funeral mass, appealed for the pontiff's legacy of caring for migrants, the downtrodden and the environment to be kept alive. The leader of the Catholic Church, who had reigned for 12 years, died on Easter Monday at the age of 88 after suffering a stroke. The papal funeral marks the first of 9 days of mourning for Catholics across the world.
World leaders, royalty and mourners gathered at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome to give a final send-off to a pontiff who was celebrated during the service as a champion of migrants and the poor. His funeral mass was held on the steps of the Basilica, one of the Catholic Church's most important sites, with more than 50 world leaders and 11 reigning monarchs in attendance. President William Ruto was among head of states who attended the service. Choirs sang Latin hymns and prayers were recited in various languages, including Italian, Spanish, Chinese, Portuguese and Arabic, reflecting the global reach of the 1.4 billion member Roman Catholic Church. Pope Francis opted to forgo a centuries-old practice of burying popes in 3 interlocking caskets made of cypress, lead and oak. Instead, he was placed in a single zinc-lined wooden coffin, which was sealed overnight. More than 250,000 people participated in the service, which lasted 2 hours in St. Peter's Square, according to the Vatican. The crowds watched mostly in silence, breaking it only to sing and follow along with prayers and to applaud when they saw Francis' coffin. In front of hundreds of world leaders attending the funeral of Pope Francis, Italian Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re called for care for migrants, an end to wars and action on global climate change, Francis' favorite political themes.
Pope Francis incessantly raised his voice, imploring peace and calling for reason and a honest negotiation to find possible solutions. War, he said, is only the death of people and the destruction of homes, hospitals, and schools.
US President Donald Trump and the Pope exchanged criticisms over a decade, mostly related to the Pope's plea for compassion for migrants, a group Trump has repeatedly sought to deport.
A person who thinks only about building walls, wherever they may be, and not building bridges, is not Christian, said Francis at the time. This is not in the gospel.
The crowd who crammed the square and the roads around broke into applause when Cardinal made the sentiments. After the funeral, as the great bells of St. Peter's pealed in mourning, the coffin was placed on an open-topped Pope mobile and driven through the heart of Rome to St. Mary Major Basilica. But in a break from tradition, Francis will be the first Pope to be buried outside the Vatican in more than a century. Francis, who shunned much of the pomp and privilege of the papacy, had asked to be buried there rather in the crypt of St. Peter's, which is the traditional resting place for popes. Tens of thousands of people lined the streets to see the procession of Francis' coffin to his final resting place. The church where the pontiff was buried is home to his favorite icon of the Virgin Mary, to whom he was particularly devoted. While his burial was kept out of public view, the general public would be allowed to pay their respects at a rosary outside the basilica from Sunday morning. Francis will be the first pope in more than 3 centuries to be buried at St. Mary Major, with the interment taking place away from the public eye. The Argentina pope, who had reigned for 12 years, died at the age of 88 on Monday after suffering a stroke. The papal funeral marks the first of 9 days of mourning for Catholics across the world. The next pope will be chosen by cardinals from around the world in a conclave, a closed-door process that may see a battle play out between those who want to continue Pope Francis' progressive path and those who want to reverse it. Rozongwe, NTV.